Well, welcome to the Engineering and Manufacturing Workforce Partnership Seminar. My name is Jeremy Leffelman, Executive Director of the Minnesota State Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence, located at Bemidji State University. I'm very pleased you joined us today for this seminar. I'm also excited to be joined today by Jason Bruns, Director of the Minnesota State Engineering Center of Excellence. 2 times a year, the Minnesota State Engineering Center and the Minnesota State Advanced Manufacturing Center offer a free seminar and networking opportunity called the Engineering and Manufacturing Workforce Partnership Seminar. The purpose of this program is to provide thought leadership for workforce stakeholders and is a forum to network, collaborate, and learn about innovative workforce solutions. I will share a bit about the Advanced Manufacturing Center, and then Jason will share about the Engineering Center. So the Minnesota State Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence was founded in 2006 and is funded by Minnesota State colleges and universities, as well as the National Science Foundation. We are one of 8 centers in the state of Minnesota, with each being focused on an important industry sector. Other centers include agriculture, energy, healthcare, information technology, transportation, and of course, engineering. All Minnesota State centers are aligned with 3 strategic priorities. They include engaging industry, enhancing education, and inspiring students. So we do this in a number of ways, including partnering with manufacturing associations on projects, working on curriculum development and faculty professional development, and inspiring youth to pursue rewarding manufacturing careers through the statewide tour of manufacturing and our youth outreach initiatives. Our overall mission is really to promote manufacturing careers and build pathways that lead individuals to rewarding employment in the industry. So now Jason is going to talk about the Engineering Center. Jason?
Hey, Jeremy, thank you very much for that opportunity here. So we'll go on to the next slide. I'm Jason Bruns. I'm the Director of the Engineering Center of Excellence. And you can see there really what guides our work and what we do. Like Jeremy mentioned, that was great that he talked about what our centers do and how we operate. We want to engage outward looking between industry and education. And within our center, we look at strengthening those collaborations as well, very similar to what the manufacturing team does also, industry partnerships and cultivating relationships. We look towards experience, how can we really start getting these young people experienced into work-based learning, solving real world problems, and how can we get them inspired into these great career fields that are manufacturing and engineering. So what can we do to get them excited? And also educate, right? How can we start having these young people thinking outside the box? How can we have stronger thinking young people coming out to be able to support these great industries? Combining these theory and practice. Very often it's said, they got too much theory. We need to start getting a lot more practice into that as well, that hands-on, and then also making sure that we're developing these educators. So what can we do to supply tools to them so they can build our future workforce successfully, really meeting the needs of industry. So we'll go on to the next slide. And some of the key program areas that as a center we focus on is our advanced career curriculum, which is a hands-on teamwork-based career pathway curriculum that schools can adopt. There's 8 different pathways that are career-focused, and it's hands-on, minds-on kind of learning. There's also a middle school program with that as well. Curriculum is all done. Assessments are also incorporated into that. It's currently running in the southern U.S., and we want to bring it to Minnesota because we think it's going to be something great for our schools, our young people, and it's a curriculum that wants industry engagement and wants industry involvement with it. I spoke earlier about what are we doing to help with these educators. Well, we also provide an engineering teacher workshop, which is hands-on, and that pedagogy that we can have these teachers learn better ways of retention, of these young people and attraction of the underrepresented into these STEM fields, into these programs, so we can start filling this pipeline with that talent. Our engineering machine design contest. I really like this a lot. It's a great career development opportunity for young people to engage in. They basically design a whimsical machine using recycled materials. Well, let's really think about that from an industry perspective. And I think we all know, those of us that are directly engaged in industry, when you have a clever idea, the boss never says, here, go throw some money at it. The boss usually says, you know what, let's have a clever way of solving it. There's a cardboard, there's a duct tape, prove the concept, and then we'll invest. Something like this is a great way that you have young people start thinking in a very clever way. The other thing I really like about this program is I get about a 50-50 ratio of girls to boys with it as well. So high interaction with that career exploration. And the other one that I'll talk a little bit more about this is that partnership that we have as an engineering center with the manufacturing center that's so valuable and so important. And this is that workforce partnership seminar. Finally, we have Explore Engineering Programming that happens for summer programming. We also have some kits and curriculum that we're working and developing through a Boston Scientific grant for inner city youth, and how can we get that exploration for that group as well. So on to the next slide, please. And so like I mentioned earlier, the Engineering Manufacturing Workforce Partnership. This has been running for, boy, I want to say about 5 years, something like that, or 4 years. It's been a real great experience. People have really gained a lot of opportunities. I can tell you about some communities that have went after some grants that they were able to get for youth apprenticeship programs. Very proud of that because of their knowledge that came out of this program. And it's really an area of sharing, and that's really what we want, is that assembly of academia and industry and state employees just wanting to talk with each other and learn more about each other. What do you do, and how can we help each other? If there isn't a match, there isn't a match, but you know what, down the road we all know that just having that engagement, you found somebody new that, hey, might have an expertise in helping you solve a problem. So it's really a great connection there, building partnerships across the system. So some of the previous topics that we have is, I showed there earlier, WIOA, work-based learning strategies. What a great way with that. Building business and education partnerships. I mean, those are some of the questions that we constantly get as well. How can we have that connection? So we've had speakers come in that. How about untapped workforce, veterans, and how about the Department of Corrections? What does it take to hire a felon, and what is it like in my workforce, and how do I deal with it? So we've had speakers come in and talk about that. A great speaker that came in and talked about attraction and retention of women in the workforce, and how to keep and promote those opportunities in that. And a very recent one that we have is working with the developmentally disabled in the workforce as well. How can that be a key asset to your business, and how can that help you grow your business and yet commit to a contribution to the community as well, and helping those individuals grow professionally also. So next slide. So finally, this is our team. So if you have any questions whatsoever, would like to learn more, you can surely email any one of us on the team, or you can go to our website and check out what we're all about. All these programs are located on there. So I'm now going to hand it off to Nick. Nick, you're going to take care of the technical background, I believe, and help us with this wonderful day.
Good morning, folks. Thank you, Jason. I'll try to keep these comments brief. I just wanted to speak a little bit about our platform. Long story short, the webinar is unlocked. So if you need to leave for any reason, work or life commitments, or if later on you prefer not to stay for or stay connected during the lunch break, you can rejoin us later on using the same link and password that you had received earlier this morning. Everyone joining us now has had their audio muted and their video feed disabled. This is intended. You will be able to unmute yourself, though, during the dedicated question and answer sessions that will be held towards the end of both of the main presentations. However, if you would, if you have any questions that you'd like to submit during the presentation, please feel free to do so via the Q&A button along Zoom's control bar, or via the general chat feature. Both the Q&A and general chat buttons can be found on Zoom's control bar along the bottom of your screen. Submitting questions via the Q&A module is a little like text messaging, and it typically opens in a separate window. Attendees can also view other submitted questions and upvote them by clicking the little thumbs up button if they have the same question or would like to echo that same sentiment. If you would like to submit a question via general chat but don't see the sidebar for it, click the chat button on Zoom's control bar to open it up. From there, feel free to select all panelists and attendees from the drop-down menu if you'd like to submit a question or comment to the group. We'll be monitoring your questions and comments throughout, and we will try to circle back towards the end of the presentations and discuss and hopefully answer them. That's all from me. But with that, I'd like to hand it back off to Jeremy to introduce our first presenters.
Thank you very much, Nick. So first, I'd like to talk about the agenda a little bit today, and then I will introduce our first two speakers. So coming up, you're going to hear a really good partnership regarding apprenticeship and the Industrial Manufacturing Technician Program. That will run till roughly 12 o'clock. We will also have a 15-minute Q&A session immediately following the apprenticeship presentation. From approximately 12:15 to 1 o'clock, you're on your own for lunch. Typically, you know, if this was an in-person seminar, which it normally is, we would provide lunch, but unfortunately, you're going to have to find your own. 1 o'clock, we will kick off the competency-based education presentation. That runs till roughly 1:45. There will be 15 minutes of Q&A once again. And then 2 o'clock, the meeting will adjourn. So with that, I am going to introduce our first two speakers of the day, tell a little bit about their program. So this is going to be about apprenticeship and the Industrial Manufacturing Technician Program. So the Industrial Manufacturing Technician Apprenticeship was developed to meet manufacturing firms' needs to upgrade the skills of the frontline production workers. The IMT on-the-job learning and related instruction are relevant in manufacturing settings, ranging from food processing or metal fabrication to plastics or biomedical production, and can be customized to a particular firm's criteria. Upon completion of training, workers earn nationally recognized manufacturing journey worker credentials. This presentation will provide an overview of the program. So with that, Heidi Braun-Kahn, the Director of Training for Anoka Ramsey Community College and Anoka Technical College, as well as Jerome Balsamo, Executive Director of the Minnesota Training Partnership, are going to talk to us about the Industrial Manufacturing Technician Program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jerome Balsamo. I am with the Minnesota Training Partnership. We are an organization out of St. Paul, Minnesota. I am going to have to share my screen, so hopefully this works. Of course, that did not work. Okay. I assume people can't see my screen right now.
So Jerome, just a heads up. So we see your live video feed, but you don't seem to have shared a video input from your laptop or device yet.
So I'm hitting share screen. We can start sharing all panelists. It's not allowing me to do it.
Well, I see the Zoom panelists. You're showing up as it's actually showing up as a phone call or device.
I got
there
it.
You go. Now,
There it
great,
is.
perfect, awesome.
2020 COVID Zoom. It never goes perfect, right?
Joys of Zoom.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So Industrial Manufacturing Technician Apprenticeship Program. kind of my plan here today, and Heidi's going to talk too, but you know, I can't stay focused a lot, so I do these. We did these PowerPoint presentations, and I think we had like 40 some slides, and I'm knocked down to 26 now before I did this presentation. So when I do this live, I don't always go by the PowerPoint, which always frustrates me because we spent a lot of time doing them. But I like to talk about the program. But the thing I like mostly is the questions and answers after. So I want to spend the most time on that. So I think the history is important. The IMT was started about 6 years ago. We got a Department of Labor grant to start the IMT. Basically, a bunch of manufacturers, a bunch of associations, and a bunch of unions came together, and they had issues. They weren't happy with the workforce. They needed them trained up. They needed something. But they didn't really know what it was. They wrote a $6 million Department of Labor grant to do this, to do IMT. And it was kind of one of those things where it was an idea. They end up getting the grant, and then it was like, oh shoot, now we got the money. Now we got to really come together and figure out what this is. So they came together. They developed the IMT with all those different associations, the colleges, everyone involved. The goal was after a year to move it to Minnesota and Michigan, which then came, our turn about, I think we're about 6 years, probably about 6 years last week, that we've been working on this and other things. But the goal was to market it in Minnesota, which is, it was easier for them in Wisconsin because they put it together and they had all the partners. My job was to, this IMT already had these classes. I didn't know who was going to be able to teach them or where these classes came from. And then I also had to market to companies, association, colleges. We did a lot of these in-person meetings to just inform people what this IMT apprenticeship was. I ran into Heidi accidentally, who was going to talk a little later, when she was at Pine Tech. And it just happened to, the Minnesota State colleges had the exact courses that people in Wisconsin a year earlier put together in this manufacturing apprenticeship program. So it worked out really well. The classes, for the last 6 years have worked out great. They allow students to, it's funny now that we're in, the unfortunate situation we're in, the classes our students were taking is perfect for the world we're in today. They all, went on their computer here, their laptop, or they were in a, break room with other students taking, Minnesota State College coursework, getting credits for it and certificates, and it worked out really good. So just to go back to a little bit, we worked with the Department of Labor. Our apprenticeship program is state approved and it's federally approved. Once we started in Minnesota, I think we probably had about 150 to 200 apprentices in the first probably 2 or 3 years. Then we got another Department of Labor grant, about a $7 million grant. We expanded into Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania. I guess Chicago is considered a state. So we expanded the IMT, also it stayed in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota. So we became kind of working nationally with the IMT, which was, it made it harder, but it was exciting too at the same time. So that's kind of the journey that we've taken from start to making this what this IMT is, to where we are today. I think our biggest story, which I find really interesting and really it's pretty cool, Electrolux and St. Cloud. They were closing their plant. They had 800 workers losing their jobs. They were the things that was different. They weren't just closing next week. They were closing in about a year and a half. So they announced it. Myself and Heidi were able to go in and talk to Electrolux and talk to them about the IMT. And they ended up allowing their workers to go through the apprenticeship program as the plant was closing. Why that was important, they got the college credits, they got the introduction to the college system. You know, a lot of people that haven't been in college for a long time. And then the big thing is they got their journey card, you know, the state certified journey card. We went to graduation, it seems like about a year ago now. And, you know, you heard stories about, you know, now there's people that got jobs that were kind of working part-time until the plant, you know, did physically close. And they were going to move full-time into those full-time positions at higher pay rates. And they were saying that the HR people said it was because, you know, because of the IMT and being able to take those college courses. So that's kind of the neat thing, and, you know, the thing that kind of keeps you going, you know, doing this work. So, so this is some of the slide work. You know, does your company have experienced employees aging out of the workforce? Find it challenging to attract or retain new talent to entry-level manufacturing jobs. This was something very interesting, and this was something that was not, it wasn't thought of, and why they put together the IMT or an apprenticeship or anything. You know, they thought they were going to help train, you know, new workers or workers that needed, you know, upskill. What they found was they used it as a way to recruit new workers. So if they're in a facility, and let's just say Rogers, Minnesota, they might have 6 manufacturers right next to each other, and people would go from one manufacturer to the other and apply. And, you know, a lot of HR people were telling us, like, a lot of the questions that were being asked was, you know, what kind of training and education program do I have? And HR people were saying that they learned that it was, you know, parents and relatives that were, you know, got hit pretty hard in 2008 with the recession, that those parents and relatives are telling the younger kids and younger people to try to figure out how to get educated, how to get training. So you're, you know, if something bad happens, you'll be one of the last people there. So yeah, this was very interesting to use the IMT. You know, companies have pay wages and benefits and all these things, but now a company has, here's the apprenticeship program that you're going to get into, which has college credits, college certifications, and a journey card when you're done. Again, I realize new workers lack, you know, applied skills. You know, IMT, you know, basically a lot of the employers are saying yes to stuff like that. So, you know, IMT or apprenticeship as a whole is pretty important in expanding in the state of Minnesota. Not to get sidetracked here, but that's usually what I do. MTP, Minnesota Training Partnership, we work with manufacturing and building trades apprenticeship programs. We're working in Mississippi, Newport News shipyards in Virginia. So we've COVID has caused us to also work outside of the state of Minnesota and working on different apprenticeship programs. And we're doing a lot of things to enhance and give people tools, you know, to be successful in their apprenticeship program. We have a grant to give out 350 Chromebooks to apprentices due to COVID-19. You know, this allows them to not lose their apprenticeship if they're in the middle of it. It allows them to keep going. It allows them to take classes like, you know, IMT teaches online, which is pretty neat. We have another grant that we're supplying apprentices welding PPE. You know, so each apprentice is getting about $500 worth of welding PPE, which is nice. And we have grants to give companies or trade organizations that are looking to open up apprenticeship programs. We have $1,000, $1,500 in incentive funds to offer apprenticeship programs. So COVID has brought us all over the country virtually. We have a lot of invites right now of people saying, hey, when you can fly, we'd love to have you guys out here, which is cool. So apprenticeship program, what is a registered apprenticeship program? They've been around forever. We, as part of the IMT, we help the companies through that process of, you know, our IMT is registered, so it's pretty simple to to really get a company going and get the IMT apprenticeship program going. Probably takes a week's time, not work time, but within 5 days from the time we fill out the paperwork and get an okay back, it's about 5 days. So they'll do on-the-job training. They'll do classroom training, obviously virtual training right now. IMT does, which is great, and they've always done that way. So it's a great way for companies to have kind of a program of what maybe that new employee needs from day one to, for the IMT 18 months later and completed and kind of not an expert in their field, but, a trained employee for that organization or company. So some of the benefits: helps recruit. I got to move my screen here. Helps recruit and develop highly skilled workforce, improves productivity, bottom line. There's some tax credits, tuition benefits in some states. Reduces turnover costs and increases employee retention. This is one thing that, we heard from companies like, oh, if I train them, they're going to leave to go to the competitor next door for 15 cents an hour. That's something we've not seen at all as part of this apprenticeship program. What we've seen is that they feel more invested in the companies and that they stay and they're excited about the apprenticeship. They're excited about the company. And a lot of times they're asking like, okay, now that I'm trained and educated, is there other opportunities here that I can do? And some people are taking college courses. They're now confident that they're able to take college courses, and they are looking at degree programs through the colleges and things like that, which is pretty awesome. So obviously apprenticeship program, the big difference between if you just go to college, apprenticeship program, you get paid, while you're working, which is great. It's a hands-on career training. You're gonna, if it's construction or manufacturing or anything like that, you're learning every day. Even if it's not the IMT coursework, it's the other type of training that you're doing every day. So, and education is key here. They get college credits. Some can get an associate's degree and bachelor's degree and move up. We've seen that, and it's been pretty neat. When they finish, it doesn't, it's not like a four-year college where they have debt. All our programs we have grant dollars for. So we usually work with the employers to figure out how to get the coursework paid for. Back when I started this 5-6 years ago with Heidi, it was, here's the dollar amount and the grant, and this is how we can get paid for. Now we have so many different avenues. I don't really have an answer of how much the dollar is or what it would be, or where it would come from, just because we try to figure out what best fits that company and that apprentice. So, yeah. What the program is, it's an 18-month program, 2,736 hours of on-the-job training, and then 264 hours of classroom instruction that the college provides. And we've been very successful with the college on that. Again, you'll see the 18 months. People ask, some people have taken like an OSHA course or first aid CPR course. Do they have to take it again? The answer is no. They just have to, if they have an OSHA card or a first aid card, they then can kind of pass through those classes, which is nice. Some of the coursework, and then Heidi will talk about them too: industrial math, the blueprint reading. You got the 4 MSSC courses, communication for apprentices, CPR, and then OSHA 10. These are kind of the competencies they get as they work of different things within manufacturing. And these things can be adjusted based on what the employer wants, but the employer kind of has a pretty good idea of kind of how many hours they want, them to be working in different things. And this isn't early on. That 2,700 hours isn't 2,700 hours of training on the floor. It's them doing their job on the floor. I always say it this way: when they built the Viking Stadium, the apprentices inside that stadium, they weren't being trained. They were building the stadium, but they were learning as they were working. Oops. So that's my contact information if anybody wants it. And then Heidi, I don't know if you want to kind of go through these,
Yeah,
and I
sounds
can
good.
advance the screen for you.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, and so when I met Jerome 6 years ago, it was the perfect storm. How the IMT course related work just matched up with our 16 credit production technologies certificate. And you'll see as we go through the courses here, starting with safety, the same MSSE safety course is the course in our, which is a 2 credit course in our production tech certificate, covering working in a safe and productive manufacturing workplace, performing safety environmental inspections. It gets into performing emergency drills and participating in emergency teams, identifying unsafe conditions, taking corrective action, and then just providing safety orientation for all employees. If you can advance that. Jerome, thanks. And then it goes into additional topics such as training personnel to use equipment, suggesting processes and procedures, the support safety of work environment. They're fulfilling different safety and health requirements, maintenance and installation repair. As you can see, monitoring safety equipment, operator performance, utilizing effective safety enhancing workplace practices. And on completion of the safety course, apprentices receive their OSHA 10 card, which was nice to have as well. Then we get into the MSSE quality practices course, which also matches up with the 2 credit quality practices course with the production tech. And in that course, apprentices will go over participating in periodic internal quality audit activities, checking calibration of gauges, data collection. They work on continuous improvements, inspection of materials and product process at all stages, documenting results of quality test. Thank you. Communicating quality problems, taking those corrective actions, recording process outcomes and trends, identifying fundamentals of blueprint reading, and then using common measurement systems and precision measurement tools. And then we get into the maintenance awareness course, which also mirrors our 2 credit maintenance awareness course. And that, again, apprentices were learning to perform preventive maintenance and routine repair, monitor indicators to ensure correct operations, perform all housekeeping to maintain production schedule, and then recognizing potential maintenance issues with basic production systems, as you see listed below, all of those systems. And then we lead into the MSSE manufacturing processes and production. And this course mirrors the 2 credit manufacturing processes and production. Also gets into more of the supervisory areas for the apprentices, gives them a taste for what that's all about. Understanding customer needs, determine resources available for the whole production process, setting up equipment for production. And then also this one gets into setting up team production goals, making job assignments. And then it also gets into coordinating workflow with team members and other work groups, communicating production and material requirements, product specifications, perform and monitoring the process to make product, and then a lot of documentation of product and process compliance with customer specifications, and then just preparing final product for shipping and distribution. And after, for each of those MSSE courses, apprentices could take a national exam. And then upon passing each of those 4 courses exam, they would obtain the certified production technician, national certification. So right there was another credential. And then we move into the additional IMT related curriculum, which was communications for apprentices. And this course matched up with our career success skills 1 credit course. Gets into communicating in the workplace, giving instructions, one-on-one communication and delivery in small groups, working with others, very beneficial, we found, for all of the apprentices. And then we get into the mathematics and blueprints, which mirrored up or matched up with our technical math course. That's 3 credits, and then print reading that is 2 credits. And so once again, in those courses, they reviewed basic arithmetic, algebra, geometry, gets in trigonometry, oblique angle, all of that. So then we move on to the last one here. Oh yeah, the disclaimer. But we left out the Intro to Computers course was the one course that was not required in the IMT coursework. And so, and that is required in the 16 credit production technology certificate. Employers and the apprentices found that very valuable to take that additional course to achieve that full college 16 credit certificate. And also majority of them were working in the plants, production floors. They didn't have a lot of experience with computers. So that was just another value for the program to get them, working with the computers. The courses were delivered over the Zoom platform, which we are using in a hybrid format. They would meet once to twice a week with their instructor, and it was very convenient. The participants could take the classes right at their workplace. Some took from home, their laptop, personal computer, or even a cell phone. People came in at times when they were away on vacation, or an iPad. So very convenient for all the apprentices to learn. And then when they were at the workplace, we heard from a lot of employers how neat it was that they would go to class for a couple hours, and then they actually could go out onto the shop floor and apply what they learned. And then another neat thing to see about this was that this really provided a lot of exposure for Minnesota State colleges. This group is a real niche group that we wouldn't have reached. Most of them had never attended college, and this got them back into school, gave them the confidence, like Jerome had said earlier, and a lot of them had their colleagues and cohorts to learn with and apply right in their workplace. So yeah, and we had put over 160 apprentices that completed that 16 credit production technology certificate. So there's a lot that came out of it between the college credits, national certifications, OSHA 10 card, excellent credentials for individuals in the workplace. So anything else you want to add, Jerome? Or?
No, I think that's it. And if, any questions would be great. I'd love to answer them.
Any questions for Jerome or I?
I've also enabled, or rather allowed attendees to unmute themselves where possible. So if anybody would like to verbally ask, that's an option now as well.
Okay.
Can you speak to concurrent enrollment opportunities? What do you have available for that, or what have high school students or high schools been able to do with this opportunity?
Well,
go ahead, Heidi.
You go ahead, start. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say with high schools, students would have to be working at a company, be a full-time worker at a company. So the high school option is not really an option. Heidi, if you wanted to kind of talk about how the classes are done.
Yeah, that's how I was going to mention that because of having to be employed and being sponsored through the organization. There has been discussion though about the production tech. It'd be nice because we do have concurrent students taking that, so they'd be all set up and ready. For work once they complete high school. Would be an excellent way to get started in the field. So.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Brian Coleman. I just had a question. It was actually around the concurrent enrollment piece as well. But, in the discussion of, building a pipeline and, really looking for the youth to be engaged in manufacturing careers, is there a plan? We were fortunate down in Faribault to get the Youth Skills Grant, which will allow our students to go out into some of those manufacturing settings and get that work experience. However, they're not coming out with the credentials. And I was just wondering, this seems like this would be a great way for those students to actually come out with the credentials. Is there any plans for that in the future?
Well, we definitely like to, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We like to explore any and all opportunities like that. As we said, this program continues to grow, and we are looking for other partners across Minnesota State to work together and continue to build this program. Wouldn't you say, Jerome?
Yeah. Yep.
Can you
Feel
speak
free to put your questions in the Q&A section as well.
Can you speak to any, have you done any articulations with completion of BS degrees or pathways to BS degrees? Is there anything to that has been laid out for those individuals looking for continuing their education, and knowing that there's a pathway for them to lead into, possibly if they want to go into a management role or more of a leadership role that might be required by HR policies? Is there anything that you have in line for that?
Yeah, we did create the pathways chart, which charted the 8-credit Manufacturing Skills Standard Council Certified Production Technician Certificate, and then how it moved into the 16-credit production technologies. We have a career pathway chart that shows the other areas they can go from there at Minnesota State colleges. So we do go over that with the apprentices, whether it's Bemidji, and continue on for their full degrees. But and depending on location of where they're training, that's nice too, because of Minnesota State, they can, we match them up with the college in their vicinity, then close to them to finish, if they want to continue, into those advanced degrees. So that's been late charted out, and we've mentored them with that.
We've also had companies who have used this as a tool where once they complete their apprenticeship program, they can bid on in advance to some higher paying positions within those facilities too.
And I don't know if you mentioned, can you talk about virtually, how much of this is virtually for those people that are listening and wanting to learn more about, how much am I going to lose my employee not engaged or not being here? I have them in the shop and now I don't have them working, and I need them working and not, speak to that. What's the life balance there? If you could speak to that, and how that works out from maybe the majority of the businesses or something like that, please.
Virtually, they would meet once or twice a week, depending on number of credits of the course. And so they would have that live interaction with the instructor and their colleagues. And then the rest of it would be through homework, quizzes, tests, assignments. And so it made it very easy for them to do the coursework around their work schedule. Companies were very flexible and actually even paid for employees' time to be at the courses. Majority of the classes would be taught between 9 and 10. We had the afternoons of 1 to 3 or 2 to 4, and they were very supportive of that. So it made it quite easy for the apprentices to balance. But we did hear quite a bit that the college credit classes, they felt that it's not just a just a workshop to show up. They did feel the intenseness of going back to school and the rigor of the coursework and including that while working. We did hear that, but they're very successful. Instructors were very good too at keeping us apprised of any issues between the company's instructor. Somebody was falling behind, we were right there for that advising piece to keep them on track, which was really appreciated, I know, by employers.
Yeah, and I think we've only had one company that did not pay their employees to attend their classroom portion of the school. And I always kind of tell this story, especially when you're paying your employees to take a class once, I think mostly it was once a week. If they're not seeing a benefit, those employers wouldn't just say, well, I kind of like those guys that came and talked to us about this program, so we'll just keep going in on this. In each month and 18 months into it, the employer, we never had an employer drop out saying like we're not seeing a benefit. All the employers have stayed in and started and graduated students and saw benefits for their workers and saw benefits to pay their workers to be in the training, which is great.
Hello, this is Calvin Clemens. I had a question back on the concurrent. If a high school student took these 16 credits, as a junior or senior, and then went to work for a company that was a participant in the IMT program, could they do it in that two-step process? Get the college credits in high school and the work experience, OJT, at the company?
Yeah, so their apprenticeship program would probably last much less than 18 months. I mean, they would need the work hours, but at least a classroom portion would be done way less than 18 months. If they've taken MSSC safety or first aid or any of those classes, they would get credited towards that in their apprenticeship program for the Department of Labor.
Mhm.
And one more follow-up question, Jerome. You mentioned there were other grant avenues for the companies to, potentially reimburse them for their time in either the OJT or the classroom training. Could you give me some examples of other grants that you tapped into?
Probably no grants to pay for meaning OJT, meaning the workers' hours. Nothing. We've never come across any grants to pay for workers' hours. Pay for classroom training. Pay for, Minnesota State College tuition fees. Yes. Books. Yes. Now, if you could ever get your hands on a Chromebook, yes. Things like that they could pay for. Specific examples of where we're finding money. The state of Minnesota has money. The federal Department of Labor has money. Since July 6th, our organization has got about $2.5 million in just apprenticeship grants or contracts alone. So there's just a lot of, we have access to a lot of stuff. We have excelled, I should say, in the COVID times, being able to help apprenticeship programs that the majority of them aren't like IMT, where they were all based online classroom training. They were in a school or in a training center, things like that, and they got shut down very quickly. And we were able to find some very quick solutions for apprenticeship programs throughout the country. So we have dollars to help facilitate some things. So
Thank you.
Heidi and Jerome, there is a question in the Q&A from Leanne Pitzrak. Can you guys see that?
yeah, so I am assuming that means juniors and seniors in high school. So apprenticeship programs are not for juniors or seniors or high school students. Apprenticeship programs are offered to full-time workers in manufacturing, in building trade jobs, metro transit bus companies, IT jobs, things like that. So my quick answer would be zero. Maybe there's a very small percentage of something, but IMT is definitely zero. I would say all of their apprenticeships must be close to zero for juniors and seniors in high school, if not zero for sure.
Jerome, this is Calvin again. You mentioned it's about a 1-week cycle time to help companies get registered for the IMT program, I think you mentioned. Could you talk a little bit about what's involved in that process? Is it
Yeah.
outlining the specific OJT plan or?
Yeah, so I always tell people it's usually like 1 to 2 weeks based on, I always jokingly said based on if the person's on vacation at the DOL. Now when we're in COVID, like people are always at their computer ready to go. But kind of what it's based on is the IMT has been approved by the state of Minnesota. Let me backtrack a little bit. A building trades apprenticeship program like the carpenter apprenticeship program is based on, they might have 300 contractors that are all part of that apprenticeship program. But in manufacturing, the company owns the apprenticeship program. So company ABC says, hey, we'd love to do IMT. I fill out all the Department of Labor paperwork for them, which talks about the classes, the OJT hours. We do some putzing back and forth to, fit those hours in the categories that the company wants. Company has to have workers' comp insurance information, and then some business information. So I always say I fill out 90% of it, and then I hand it back usually to the contact for the company to fill out the other 10%, get some signatures. If it's a union company, the union also has to sign it. They get it back to me, I turn it in, and then it gets usually approved within a week. So that's kind of the process of being approved. And once it's approved, you can have an apprentice start the on the job portion or the school portion, whatever, kind of the schedule with the college and the on the job section. So pretty simple.
Back to Calvin's question, I think an interesting part here is that how much of a burden is it on the business? I'm a small business. I have 50 employees. Is it hard to set this up? Is it hard? Do I have to do a lot of paperwork in the background to have it all prepared? Kind of help me out with that. If I'm a small business, how should I look at it? And is it going to be a lot of work?
Yeah, so Heidi's worked with them too, so I'll give her the second part of that question too, or allow her to answer it. But it's pretty simple. I always give you the example. The first company I ever worked with, they hired an intern, and I met this person at, I think, a St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce meeting or something. They hired an intern to work with the HR person to set up their own manufacturing apprenticeship program. That intern was hired, and it was 9 months from the date they started until they got their apprenticeship program approved. I talked about the IMT. They spent that money and time, and they stopped doing their apprenticeship program and moved to the IMT. So that's without no help how hard it is. With our help, you get approved within a week or two. Everything is set up. It's what are those yellow books, like Windows for Dummies and stuff like that. It's all set up where everything is in front of them. Probably the biggest hassle they have, there's a little bit of hassle right away trying to figure out what schedule works for that company. And Heidi's, is great at trying to figure that out for them and making it so it's not a pain for them. They have books for classes, so we ship out books to the HR contact. That HR contact has to put them in the employees' mailboxes or however to distribute stuff. But other than that, I say it's pretty simple, but I'm not the one on that end. But everything's worked out for them. So it's really day one, or it really, starting the application to the 18-month completion graduation, where it's all set out for them. Plus the DOL helps out with any questions and answers. The DOL does come out. I think they do like a yearly check. They come to the facility just to check, one, to make sure they're taking classes that they said they were going to be taking, and filling out time cards that students are doing and things like that. But that's a 30-minute interview when you could go visit people. So I don't know how they're doing it now. So, and then Heidi, you work with some of the employers with the books and the courses, if you want to.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, we try to streamline the process, and Jerome and I would go out and meet with the new company that was interested, we'd go in there together, meet with all the decision makers right from the beginning, get everything set up. So fill out all the paperwork. We tried to really, keep things efficient, not having them spend too much time. And then it's a lot of communication, and then scheduling courses. If a company had enough to run a course, then we can do that, or we'd have them run into the schedule with other companies. But I know the companies liked when their employees could be with some of the other employees too, just for that networking piece. So that it just came down to a lot of consistent communication. Like I said, our instructors were fabulous, keeping that communication direct with us at the college. And then I kept the communication with Jerome. I mean, that's the key to all of this, is we were all a team in this, and keeping everyone in check was key for keeping the employer happy. And as soon as, like a student was falling behind, we get the alert with the instructor, we're communicating with the company, and they really appreciated that. So just a solid team of individuals that were very committed, I would say, on this project, and that consistent communication was key. And I think the employers, we did hear many times, appreciated all of that. And the quick response time. Things happen along the way when you're coordinating all of these courses and books and credentials. I mean, with credit-based classes, there's a lot involved with that, because they had to follow taking the Accuplacer exams and all of that, which they'd never had to deal with. So making those processes as easy for them was the key. So.
I think Nancy has a question in the chat. What are good technical credentialing options for individuals who are employed by manufacturers and working positions on overnight and weekend shifts? I'm sure it's challenging for them to find those opportunities. Can you speak to that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jerome.
Well, I was gonna say, it sounds like the question's like more like they have crazy overnight, weekend, crazy shifts. We had a company in New Brighton that had rotating shifts overnight. They had the whole 9 yards, and I walked out of there telling them that we would be able to figure out the classes. And when I walked out of there, I'm like, I know I lied to them. We're never gonna figure out this schedule. And we were able to figure out with the help of Heidi in the college. So those crazy overnights or these rotating shifts, we've not turned a company away based on their shifts at their company, if that's helpful.
And just the availability of the courses through Zoom and virtual like that really helps. We heard that numerous times from apprentices. The flexibility to do work at their pace, fit it in around their work schedule, was key. If they would have had to show up in person away at a college, that's what was really beneficial to them with their various working schedules.
All right, do we have any more questions we can get answered? So otherwise, it's looking like we're going to have lunch. Let me share my screen here. And we'll have lunch for the next till 1 o'clock. And then 1 o'clock, we're going to be discussing competency-based education, presentation on that. Don't eat too much, because you'll end up falling asleep. We can't have that. Please partake in that, and come back a little sharp. Maybe a 12:55 sharp. That would be nice, so we can get kind of things rolling at 1 o'clock. So thank you very much. And we'll look forward to seeing you all again in about an hour.